In the previous video, I covered the VLOOKUP and how to find the cost of the phone in this table based on the phone version here. So what I want to do in this video is talk about the if function and how we can use that to calculate the total or find the total of the charge for the phone. So we have the standard amount for the phone here, which is what we found in the table here for our VLOOKUP. So that's the standard. So if we wanted, let's just say, more storage space on our phone, then we're going to have a premium charge, which is right here. It's going to be $40 for that additional storage space. So it's either yes or no. Either we have a premium charge, which is going to be an additional $40 to the cost, or we do not. And if that's the case, it will be the cost. So for this one, we can use an if function because we're going to say if this value is equal to yes, then we will take $40 from here. We're going to add it to whatever our cost is. If it is not, meaning it's no, okay, so if it's no, then we just take the cost as our total. So again, there are two branches. Kind of think about it like a diagram or a flow chart. If this value is yes, we're going to take $40 plus the cost. And then if it's not yes, meaning it's no, because there are no other values here, then we will just take the value of the cost and include that as the total. Okay. So in this case, you just have to think about there are only two values. So if the value is yes, it's going to calculate the cost, the additional cost. But if the value is not yes, it's automatically no. So we don't have to compare it to anything else. We know that it's just going to be the cost of the phone as the total. Okay, so we're going to use an if function for this. So you can, again, if it's not here in your most recently used, type in if, and we want just the plain if function. And notice it says it checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if it's true and another value if it's false. So that's why we can use an if function, because either it's yes or not for the amount of storage space. Okay. So here we only have three items we need to complete for the if function: the logical test, the value if it's true, and then the value if it's false. The logical test says it's any value or expression that can be evaluated to true or false. So to put it simply, it's a comparison. Usually you are comparing something in an if statement. So here we are comparing to see whatever this value is in column D for each customer. Is it yes or is it no? So we're going to go under the assumption that we're going to say if it's yes, then add the amount of the charge, and otherwise we're going to assume it's no, so we're going to just take the 400 and display it as the total. Okay, so our logical test is the comparison. It's this equal to yes, and since I'm using text, I'm going to put the quotation marks around it. Okay, so I'm going to compare what's in cell D5 to yes. Click in the value if it's true. So then you need to say, okay, what if it's true? Then we're going to add our storage amount here plus the cost, or you can switch those either way. In this case, because this is going to be a formula, I'm going to copy down. We will need to determine our relative and absolute cell references. So we will return to that in just a moment. So if it's yes, we're going to add that premium amount. But if it's not, meaning if it's no, then we're just going to choose whatever the amount of the cost is. Again, here we're going to pretend we don't know. This could be a no. Maybe the customer calls and changes his mind. So we would put no here. So we're going to assume that we don't know what's here, that it is indeed a yes. So we're going to make the comparison based on the same value here. Okay, and then we'll copy it down so that Excel can determine what to do with each row. Okay, so now what we need to do is determine whether or not we need absolute references here. We have all relative references. Is there anything that needs to stay the same as we copy this formula down the column? And the answer to that is yes, there is. We do not need D5 to be absolute because we want D5 to change so that we can determine whether each customer wanted a premium charge. The same for C5. C5 needs to change and be a relative reference because we want the cost to change for each customer. So in that case, we want those to be relative references. So the thing that we want to stay the same is the storage amount cell reference. So we want each one that has an added storage amount to use that same cell reference. So we're going to make J1 absolute. I'm just pressing F4 there. So here I'm going to do a logic test. D5, is it yes? That's true. So that should be $640. If it was false, it would be $600 just pulling in the cost. But it's telling you right here the answer is going to be $640. So do a logic check just to make sure it looks correct. Then when you click on OK, you should be able to copy that down the column. And just do a double check on a couple of them to make sure they look correct. Check a couple that have yes, a couple that have no, just to make sure that everything is correct. Now, if I were to go in here and change this one to yes and press enter, you can see that it now adds that $40. Okay, so that's the flexibility of using the absolute and relative cell references and using the reference here for the additional cost. So that, let's say if we increased our cost to $50, then that would be reflected here. And we didn't have to change anything in the formula, just here in our cell reference. Okay, so that's the if function. Again, you're making a comparison and deciding what to do if it's true and what to do if it's false.